G'day, welcome to Trooper Cody's channel, and as you know I've got a horse crime series, and this is a subsidiary maybe because I've been asked to tell a few stories about my own police career, having been a copper and in law enforcement for almost 40 years, and so this story is nearly 50 years old, and I think I can pretty well guarantee that maybe nowhere in the world, in policing, can anyone else tell this story. So when I graduated, I went out to a suburb called Elizabeth, which was an outer northern suburb of Adelaide, and it was a lower socio-economic suburb, and it was on the fringes of Adelaide at the time, and off to the northwest of it was a pretty much what could be called a mangrove wasteland. The whole coast from Port Adelaide north was incredibly flat, sandy seabed that when the high tide was in, the water was only ever about waist deep, and when the tide was out, the sand flats stretched for miles completely flat. There was an area called Port Gawler that was in our patrol area, and it was just not populated at all because the farms that existed, the land was so poor fertiliser that you couldn't actually farm it, and at that time it was mainly used for glass houses for people to grow tomatoes. Okay, they grew other things illegally and we would go out there, but that's not what this story's about. What happened on this particular day was my partner and I were out nearly 50 years ago patrolling this desert, this flat beach area, and we would patrol it because people would take stolen cars there to do wheelies and slides and crash and burn the cars. They would take car bonnets there and they would tie them to the back of cars and race around sitting in the car bonnets. There was all sorts of illegal activities took place at this area called Port Gawler. So what happened on this particular day, lovely sunny day, go out to Port Gawler just to check what really minor criminal activity was going on, and there was a hovercraft going around the beach. Now if you know what a hovercraft is, hovercraft has a skirt, it fills with air that lifts it up, has a propeller on the back and that propels it along, and the thing about South Australian legislation actually had recorded in it that you were not allowed to drive a hovercraft on a road, and a road was anywhere that the public could go or had access to, and so the whole of the Port Gawler beach, miles and miles of flat beach, was a road under the Road Traffic Act, and hovercraft wasn't allowed. I was very young at the time, 20 maybe, and found it fascinating to see the hovercraft. And of course when the guy driving the hovercraft saw the police car, he headed the hovercraft back to his vehicle and his trailer because he knew he'd been done. So we pull up next to him and he shuts down his hovercraft, and I'm having a chat to the bloke because I'm fascinated. I've always, since a small boy, I'd liked the idea of hovercrafts, as I'm sure most boomers did. Anyway, the 70s was a different time. No social media. People didn't report coppers because they were too frightened that there would be repercussions for doing that. And so, after a few hints, the guy says, "Would you like a drive of the hovercraft?" Well, of course, because two things. He knows if I drive it, I'm never going to pinch him. But also, I was super keen to have a go on it. So, powered by two Briggs & Stratton motors, a throttle for one motor fills the skirt with air and lifts it up, a throttle for the propeller on the back propels it. The guy says it's dead easy. You've got, like an aeroplane, you've got a rudder bar to turn left and right, and 2 throttles, lift and propulsion. So I get in uniform, in my cop uniform, I get in the hovercraft, start it up, and off I go over the beach. It was such fun. Fast, low to the sand, and the beauty of it is a hovercraft, there is no friction. When you turn a corner on a hovercraft, you just go in huge slides because there's nothing to grip to go around a corner. So the corners are enormous. Well, anyway, I thought I'd had enough fun and it was time to head back. Now the guy had told me, when you've finished and you want to stop, all you do, shut down the 2 throttles, the skirt collapses, propulsion stops, and the hovercraft will just stop. Now I had driven the Police Valiant when we first saw this hovercraft, and I'd parked it. I've had enough in the hovercraft and I'm heading back to shut it down, and as I'm heading back I shut the 2 throttles down, heading straight for the police car, and nothing happens. The hovercraft doesn't slow down, the hovercraft doesn't sink onto the ground, its skirt doesn't collapse, and I am sitting there in the seat looking at a big blue police car that I'd parked rushing towards me, and I think, oh shit, how the hell am I going to report this accident when I'm the driver of the police car, because I parked it, and I'm the driver of the hovercraft? This is going to be pretty embarrassing. Thank God at the last minute the owner of the hovercraft jumped in front of me and the hovercraft hit him and stopped and didn't hit the police car. Needless to say, didn't pinch him, could have gone down in history as being the only police departmental accident between a car and a hovercraft where the same person was driving both of them. Bit of an unusual story, mainly for the subscribers. Hope you liked it. Till next time. Cheers. See you later.